Hi, welcome to Fantasy and Reality, the podcast where we talk about how to be unapologetically yourself. I am Elara Dunn. I am a fantasy author and illustrator. And my cohort here, Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon Malone-deBenedictis. I am a documentary filmmaker, workshop facilitator, and body image coach. I do a lot of documentaries, a lot of things. Yeah. So yeah, what are we talking about today?
All right, so today we are talking about we're all animals. Since Shannon does do wildlife documentaries, I thought it would be interesting to talk about human behavior, how it reflects in non-human animal behavior. And it's something I watch a lot of documentaries, and sometimes I'm like looking at things like, say bulls fighting each other, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, like
Yep.
that's us,
Yeah.
absolutely. How like some animals form in like herds and others are solitary.
Yeah.
And that kind of just find it so interesting because I see human nature reflected so much. Like we think we're so beyond, and we're really just yeah. But
Yeah.
it is a violent world.
Yeah. It is. It
Yeah,
is.
there's a
So
feeling. Yeah. So, but you're
yeah.
always talking
So
about of that. So tell me about that.
well, it's a funny thing. So, Alara and I have known each other for over 30 years. And if 30 years ago, if she had said, you're gonna become a wildlife documentary filmmaker, I would have been like, ha! I would have totally laughed at that because when I was first starting out, I was all into doing music videos and art pieces and doing that. But I always loved to tell a story. And so I ended up working at the Discovery Channel and then I got assigned to work on a project, this little thing called Planet Earth, and then I got labeled as a wildlife person, and so I started doing wildlife. And the one very cool thing about it is, and I say this by the way, as and Laura knows this, I am a city mouse. I think I've been camping 3 times in my life. I think sleeping in a tent is just ridiculous. Why would you sleep on the ground? A bed is so much more comfortable. I don't like bugs. Yeah, so I'm a city mouse. I fully acknowledge that. But I do love learning, and I love learning about animals, and I love finding those similarities in the animal kingdom and relating them to what we love about animals, why we love them, and what those differences are. And so I've had a really, really great career and still do learning about how animals are violent, how animals are caring, how animals are similar to us, but also some of the things that we look at with animals and we I don't say idolize, exalt maybe is the word I'm looking for. I'm kind of digging in for a thesaurus here. That we prop up, and it's not real. It's not real, but these are things that have been passed through lore and stories and whatnot. And so I always find that interesting because we are animals. We humans are animals, and we have a lot in common with animals, with wildlife. Um, but we also are different. We're also very different. So, that was a long answer to your question. I don't even remember
That
what the
was a
question
long
is, I'm
answer, but
sorry. We're
that
keeping this real.
it was insightful. Something that I notice in animal behavior is a lot of pack animals seem to shun others that aren't like themselves, whether it's sort of the runt of a litter or whatever you want to call it. There
Mhm.
seems to be the shunning, there seems to be that protectiveness and the outing of anything that's not like themselves.
It depends on actually the species, and I think that, there are some species that, yeah, you do see cast-offs, but, I can bring up 2 species that don't do that at all. Number 1 are hyenas, and, wild dogs don't do that either. I don't believe bonobos do that either, which they're our closest relative, our closest primate relative, one of our closest. Is those are group societies, you know, hyenas and wild dogs are pack animals. Bonobos live in large groups and large family groups and whatnot. Um, they find purposes for everybody in there. And so you'll see situations like with wild dogs and hyenas where there'll be a dog that in particular, maybe has a broken leg or something, but they use that dog as a scout. They use that dog as an alert, and they keep that animal still
That's
part
really
of their
interesting.
clan. Yeah, they still keep part of the pack. Hyenas do the same thing. So there are certain animals, and one could relate it to intelligence, one could relate it to just dynamics of where they are, but it's not an absolute in the wild in the animal kingdom that they cast off those who are others and those who are different. That's not an absolute at all. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
What else can I tell
refreshing
you
to
about how
hear
we're
because
different
since
or
I
blah
come
blah
from
blah?
the world of
Yeah.
disability. Right. Right. Well, yeah, coming from the world of disability, it's interesting to me because I was watching a documentary, um and the paleontologist was talking about a family of Neanderthals that they found in a
Mhm,
cave. And they studied
mhm,
this family, they were well preserved. And there was a body of a disabled Neanderthal to show
mhm,
they were caring for this disabled Neanderthal. They had found,
mhm,
damage to the back of his skull, but then there was damage to his arm much later, meaning the brain injury, they took care of him after a brain injury. And they were saying that
mhm.
maybe he helped, like, carry the children with his good arm. Maybe he was even used for storytelling, but it's really interesting that Neanderthals did that, and yet through pretty much every society up through the 1970s, disabled people were shunned. People in Sparta left them at the babies at the mountaintop for the wolves to come eat. So it's really interesting to me that there are, like, in wildlife, there are also instances where they would not
Yeah,
shun
I
or keep.
Yeah, I think that, my brain and boy, am I gonna go controversial here. I think that one of the things that goes with shunning is the introduction of religion. Is is when you find a if you're finding a thing to use to excuse something bad that's happened, then perhaps that's a motivator behind it, behind of discarding and whatnot. You don't have that in the wild kingdom. You don't have religion. You don't have a consciousness that says, the hyenas are not saying this is it. They're looking and saying we need to protect the family, we need to protect the pack. And you see this also with elephant herds where, an elephant may have a severed trunk. They'll work to make sure that that elephant continues to be fed. So I think that it's something that humanity through their own kind of faith system has done also has somewhat implemented, and also sometimes maybe learning maybe the wrong lessons from nature. We have been able to observe our understanding of nature and wildlife has increased dramatically in the past 20 to 50 years. A lot of this is due to easier travel, easier ways to get to remote places. Cameras have increased and documentation, as well as the the democratization of the scientific field. The scientific field for many, many generations was dominated by white, male, Anglo-Saxon Protestants who were doing the research, and ergo, that point of view was implemented on that changed, that we have to cut this. Um, their perspective was influenced by that. So, for example, let's talk about the
Right.
alpha male in wolves. Um, the alpha male
Okay. Yeah.
idea was done by a study that was in the 1970s. And in the 1970s, they studied a pack of wolves and determined that there was a hierarchy, determined by the male wolves. But the reality is that that study has actually been debunked because the wolves they were studied were in captivity. And in captivity, when you don't have a natural pack structure, yeah, a hierarchy does does establish, does happen. If you think about a prison, if you think about that, there are these types of things that happen. But out in the wild, right? An alpha male and alpha female is no different than a mom and dad. They're in a family structure, right? So it would be like calling a dad an alpha male. And it's like, no, you're just the dad. That's all you are, is you're the dad, right? They do identify key leaders of packs as alpha and alpha female and alpha male and whatnot, but those are just like any other family structure. So what we've done is we've looked at this alpha male as being like, I am the leader, I'm the robust, look at me, boom, 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 boom. And the truth is, no, that's just a dad, and the dad takes care of the family. The dad makes sure everybody gets fed. The dad protects, and the dad works in collectively helping raise all the kids. So it's not this kind of warrior thing. It was only looked at that point of view because of who was studying and the conditions that are part of it. So I think those are the lessons that we have to learn to take to look at the animal kingdom in a much more open-minded, realistic way that um yeah, that makes a
Right.
little bit more sense than kind of the myths that we've been told. Yeah.
Well, and back to comparing it to human nature, it sounds a lot like cultures that still respect elders and that elders are the wisest and, sort of everybody has their place in these smaller areas.
Yeah, I think that when we look at that and we study certain creatures, there are, I think the last I understand, it's 2 or 3. There are only 2 or 3 animals on the planet that have menopause, right? Um, we are one, orcas are another, and I
Oh,
believe
wow.
orangutans also have menopause.
Really?
And I think about that, what it is. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And orcas, female orcas will live anywhere between 30 to 50 years longer than male orcas after menopause because their role is important as an
oh,
elder
wow.
female to teach the next generation. That's the important thing. So I think that when we talk about human nature and animal, what we can learn about ourselves is we can learn a lot about family structures. We can learn a lot about elders, how they take care of older members of the pack, of the pod, etc., how they nurture their young. But I think we also have to remember that it's like we are similar in this way, but we also are highly intelligent and have highly evolved emotions and highly evolved critical thinking skills. And so when we limit ourselves to being like, we're animals or kind of thing, we're negating, thousands of years of evolution that have allowed us to travel to space. Thousands of years of evolution have allowed us to cure diseases, to take care of others, to cross, have cultures who mix together and get to know each other and understand each other. I think we have to remind ourselves of that too. It reminds us of what makes us animals, but also what makes us human in a beautiful, special, peaceful way. Not like, again, we're not animal, boom, boom, boom kind of thing. So I really, really work against that perception. One of my favorite things is when I see anything about wolves. Wolves are like, everything you see, they're hunting all the time. It's like, no, they hunt once a week, everybody. They're like most dogs. They sleep, they play, they eat, they hunt. When they're out of food, they go hunt. They're not hunting all the time. Lions aren't hunting all the time. They're not, every moment of their life is not hunting. It's they sleep a lot. Cats sleep a lot, guys. Let's just be
Yeah.
truthful about it. So
Can you imagine seeing that in the documentary? Like the
it's just
reflex of a
sleeping.
lion in
Yeah.
the documentary. Yep, oh,
No, the
still
most difficult
sleeping.
documentary my colleagues
Yeah.
and I have worked on was the Inside the Mind of a Cat, and it's because they sleep all day. They don't do a lot, cats, and it's like, okay, let's catch
Yep.
one while it's awake. So that's just the truth of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think the one
Something
thing that
else that I see in
yes.
documentaries,
No, you go ahead. We're on a delay. Go ahead.
okay, the one thing that I know. The thing that I see in a lot of documentaries also is the fight for resources or the sharing of resources. For example, land, their territory, or, food. When a zebra's killed, the lions eat, then the hyenas come in. And that also, I feel we have this sophisticated version of that when we go to war, almost.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, but in nature, this is something we can learn is that for every kill that an animal makes, a predator makes, that's energy that's expended. And they have to be careful on how they expend their energy. Because if they're too exhausted or they're too tired, then they won't be able to defend themselves against something. So these things are done in a balance of understanding they're not randomly killing just for territory. They're doing it because they're making that judgment call of, okay, do I have the energy to really, really kind of fight this off right now? And particularly like in a place like Yellowstone, you'll see a bear and a wolf sitting over a kill, and the bear will be like, no, I'm eating right now. And the wolf will be like, you know what? I don't really want to fight you right now. And they find a way to all feed on the carcass. So I think in human nature, it's it's
I feel as
recognizing
is
that
life.
for the
I
most
feel
part,
that's
there's enough to
exactly
go
my
around.
point.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
There's enough to go around. It's just,
Also true
what
with
is that
humans.
higher thing that we have that feels like, yeah, mine, mine, mine. Yeah.
Um, so what can we learn about ourselves when we're watching a nature documentary?
I think that we can learn that some animals, like
Let
penguins in Penguin Town, they seek companionship, they seek partners, they seek a safe place to raise their family. I think that's something we all can relate to. I think in Secrets of the Whales, collectively working together for the benefit of the entire community. I think that's really important. I think that's also coming together so the next generation learns collectively as a group, sharing experiences, which like beluga whales do. And then even like an apex predator like sharks, who probably are not as intelligent as whales. They're probably not in terms of as intelligent as cetaceans. There's a tenacity and there's a resilience that sharks show, and I think that's something we can learn as humans. I think we can take that and be like, you know what, we can be pretty resilient. We can deal with a lot, and those are things that we can learn. We can definitely learn about nature. We just have to remind ourselves we are highly intelligent. We are highly emotional, and have a very, very well developed emotional nervous system, and that we have the ability to do more and be better than probably some base instincts that people want to lean on.
Okay. Well, that is a lovely insight and perfect conclusion to this episode. Make sure to click a like on us. I'm Elara Dunn again. I can be found at themagiclocker.com, and my books are available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. And Shannon, where can we find you?
I am at padlincreative.com. You can also follow me on social media. Drop me a line anytime. I do consulting, workshop facilitation, also consultation on different creative projects.
Awesome.
Should I throw it out?
Bye-bye.
Okay. And we're good. Thank you, everybody. Bye.